Committee Member Keith Micah, Attorney Mike Tan. House Member Arlene D. Brosas. House Member Ramon Jolo Revilla III. House Member Salvador A. Plato. Deputy Majority Leader Franz S. Pumaren. Those attending via Zoom, House Member Siti Amina Dimaporo. House Member Christopherson M. Yap. We have here the Deputy Minority Leader Franz L. Castro. Committee Vice Chairperson Maria Rene Ann Lourdes G. Matibag. Committee Member Kimer Adan T. Nolasco. House Member Josefina B. Talyado. House Member Chino Miguel D. Almario. Comsec, please acknowledge our resource persons and guests present in today's hearing.
For today's meeting, we have the following invited resource persons. The Commission on Elections, represented by the Honorable Chair, Chair George Erwin M. Garcia, Commissioner Ray E. Bulay, Attorney Helen Aguila Flores, Attorney Chapisto Elnas. From the PPCRB, we have Mr. Arwin Serrano. We have from the National Youth Commission, CEO and President, USEC Ronald Giancarlo Cardema. From the Legal Network for Truthful Elections, Lente, we have Attorney Carlo Gino Africa. Early this morning, I was texted by the Chief of Staff of our Senior Deputy Speaker to recognize the following barangay captains in Lubao, Pampanga, who will be present via Zoom. Captain Romel Requioma, Santos Tomas Lubao, Kapitan Nelson Pukot, San Jose Apunan Lubao, Kapitan Francisco Villena, San Francisco Lubao, Kapitan Mario Garcia, San Agustin Lubao, and Kapitan Diosdado Cabiling, San Miguel Lubao. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Comsec.
Sorry. We also have a representative from the National Movement for Free Elections, NAMFREL, our Secretary General, Mr. Eric Jude O. Alvia.
Thank you once again, Comsec. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. I thank everybody who is here today in today's meeting, both physically and online via Zoom. During the 18th Congress, under the able leadership of our Congresswoman Juliet Marie Ferrer of the 4th District of Negros Occidental, this committee was able to act on a total of 99 House bills and 5 resolutions out of 197 measures referred to it for action. The committee was able to pass and transmit to the Senate 12 bills, 3 of which became laws relevant to the lives of the Filipino nation we all honor to serve. This Congress, we shall remain committed to the mandate given to us in the committee to protect and advance the right of suffrage and the conduct of elections, plebiscites, initiatives, recalls, and referenda. This committee shall use as a jump-off point the achievements of the leadership of Congresswoman Ferrer. We shall endeavor to enact into laws the noble bills which mirror the intent of our push for electoral reforms, strengthening political parties, increasing campaign finance, institutionalizing early voting for senior citizens and persons with disabilities, reorganizing and reappropriating separate offices for the various field offices of the Commission on Elections, dismantling political dynasties, and many more. There are many choices in our lives which they say are beyond our control from the time that we are born. Our name, our parents, our zip codes, and however manageable by the advancement in technology, the way we look. On the bright side, there are also many other things that we have a sense of control over. The way we exist in this shared space we are in, and consequently, the way we ensure that others are also made to live. As public servants, let us bear in mind that whatever we choose to do or not to do, with the power entrusted to us by the people we serve, is also a reflection of what we deserve or not deserve to enjoy in this lifetime. As public servants, let us strive hard to work in synergy in providing our people and our nation not only an idea of a better life, but a path towards a just, equitable, and dignified society that they can all proudly call their motherland. The Philippines is a very great nation. The Filipino people are among the most reliable and most hardworking population. They deserve never the bare minimum. Again, welcome to the first meeting of the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms. Let us now proceed to the meeting proper. And I want to acknowledge other House members present. House Member Dean Asistio and Committee Member Mary Mitzi Kahayon Uy. We will now consider the internal rules of procedure in the 19th Congress, copies of which were sent to our members prior to this hearing. Are there any questions from our members, or is there a motion to approve or adopt the internal rules of procedure as proposed? Honorable Barsaga.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of the rules of procedure of this committee for this Congress.
Second, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion to approve and adopt the internal rules of procedure in the 19th Congress as proposed. It was seconded. Are there any objections? There being none, the committee's internal rules and procedure in the 19th Congress as proposed is hereby approved and adopted.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, Mr. Chair, this is Congressman Hatama via Zoom.
Via Zoom.
Via Zoom.
Just for the record, Mr. Chair, that this representation did not receive any copy of the internal rules. Just for the record.
We will ask the COMSEC to forward to you a copy, Deputy Minority Leader, Honorable Hataman, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think they send it with the notices of meetings. It is attached.
My staff, Mr. Chair, just received this morning the copy by the invitation for this meeting. In fact, that's why I can't make it to the face-to-face hearing. We received the Viber information at around 8:30 in the morning. Just for the record.
We apologize, Deputy Minority Leader.
We sent it last night kasi the referral of the bills was, the 3 bills was only referred yesterday afternoon.
Honorable Ataman, the COMSEC sent the notice of hearing because the last night.
August 11, we sent the notices. August 11, we sent.
It was sent on August 11, Deputy Minority Leader, through email. and
But my chief of staff just informed me this morning that he received a chat via Viber on this morning around 8:30 in the morning. For the record, Mr.
okay, we apologize to that, Deputy Minority Leader Honorable Hataman. May we acknowledge likewise our committee member Marvin D. Rillo and House Member Jaime D. Cojuangco.
Sir, may I also acknowledge the presence of Attorney Cynthia Palcotelo Fortes of the League of Municipalities.
The next part of our agenda is the deliberations of measures postponing the synchronized barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections originally scheduled in December 2002. As of August 15, the committee has received a total of 81 House bills and 5 House resolutions. 38 of these House bills are of the same topic. A list of the bills for deliberation today have been sent to your offices. Let us first hear the sponsorship speeches of our authors, then hear the comments from our members and our resource persons after everybody had delivered their speeches.
Sir,
So let us
I would like to
begin with House Bill number 41 by Representative Paul Ruiz Daza. Honorable Daza. Wala siya.
We will go back later. We'll just proceed on.
We will now proceed, considering that the Honorable Daza is not present as of the moment. We proceed with House Bill number 121 by Representative Juliet Marie De Leon Ferrer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to submit my explanatory note as my sponsorship speech. And I would like to manifest that I am amenable to the date that is decided upon by the committee, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ferrer. And
133.
we now go to House Bill 133 by Representative Rachel Margaret B. Delmar.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Honorable Delmar.
This measure seeks to postpone the December 5, 2022 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections to December 4, 2023. Section 429, Chapter 8 of the Local Government Code provides that the Sangguniang Kabataan chairman and members shall hold office for a period of 3 years unless sooner removed for cause, as provided by law, permanently incapacitated, die, or resign from office. The national and local elections have just been concluded this 2022. To conduct barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections this year would definitely add to the present division of the electorates. Another reason is that there would be additional expenditures for the conduct of the said election on the part of the Commission on Elections, the COMELEC. It is of common knowledge that our country has suffered a lot due to the pandemic brought about by COVID-19 and the recently concluded elections. Thus, it is beneficial for the country to defer the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections to December 4, 2023 to allow our country to concentrate on economic programs that would be beneficial to our people. In view of the foregoing, approval of this bill is earnestly sought. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Delmar. We go to House Bill number 333 by Representative Michael L. Romero. Is the Honorable Romero present?
Online.
We will now go to House Bill number 398 by Representative Gus S. Tambunting. Is not present. We now go to House Bill number 432 by Representative Johnny T. Pimentel. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And may I read the explanatory note? This bill seeks to postpone the December 2022 barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections to May 2024. Barangay is the basic unit of our government. As such, barangay officials are at the forefront of the government service. They serve as the crucial figureheads in our communities. In the direst moments, it is the barangay which mobilizes the state machinery to deliver the most basic of needs of the people. These past 2 years could be arguably treated as lost years since a worldwide pandemic has struck us. It was the barangays and its officers which were in the front lines. They carried out much of the country's contact tracing efforts. Furthermore, it was also them which facilitated the general and localized lockdowns. When we enacted the Bayanihan laws, it was also the barangays which stood in the front to deliver the much needed social aid to the communities. And we finally were able to arm ourselves with vaccines. It was also the barangays and its officers which were in the forefront of implementing our countrywide vaccination efforts in encouraging the community to be jabbed. Roughly 2 years were lost for our elected officers to carry out their regular mandate. It is only fair that we make up for this year's continuity in the implementation of our barangay-level programs and projects is stand as the best interest for our communities. The consideration of this bill is earnestly sought, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Pimentel. We now go to House Bill number 480 by Senior Deputy Speaker Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, ma'am. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I joined 37 other members of Congress who have filed a bill to postpone the barangay elections, and we all have very similar explanatory notes. So I joined them also in the explanations. I just want to add that we only differ, I think, in terms of when the elections will be held. And on my part, my bill provides for, like many others, my bill provides for May 2024. And further, I just want to add that this is not the first time we are postponing barangay elections. It's something that we do every so often when there is a need for it. So therefore, I earnestly request our committee and our colleagues in the plenary to pass this bill. But like Congresswoman Ferrer, she has the different vision when the elections will be held. We will bow to the wishes of the majority of this committee on when the actual elections will be held. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, Ma'am Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. May I acknowledge first Congressman Mark Ogo of the Lone District of Baguio City, who is with us through Zoom. We now go to House Bill number 504 by Representatives Edvic G. Yap, Eric Go Yap, Paulo Z. Duterte, and Jeffrey Soriano. Can we ask Congressman Jeffrey Soriano to...
Honorable Chairman Maximo Dalog Jr., my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And it is my honor to sponsor the proposed House Bill number 504 or an act postponing the December 22 barangay and SK elections, amending for the purpose of RA 9164, as amended by RA 9340, RA 10632, RA 10656, RA 10923, RA 10952, and RA 11462. Also sponsoring House Bill 504 with me are Representatives Eric Yap, Paulo Duterte, and Edvic Yap. Please note that the title must accommodate the postponement of December 22 barangay and SK elections, erratum to the May 2023 that is mentioned. This bill seeks to postpone the December 2022 barangay and SK elections in hope to address the interruption in the term of the incumbent barangay and SK officials, extending their respective terms for another year. As the country's basic political unit, the barangay would be allowed to efficiently deliver all ongoing programs, services, and projects in the community, especially at the expense of the proliferating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. After all, the barangay is a backbone and the first line of defense of local governance. The 2022 presidential elections has only been recently concluded, and admittedly, it has been divisive, contentious, and costly for the whole nation. Hence, it would not be prudent to immediately hold the nationwide barangay elections amidst these circumstances. The postponement would grant relief from the heavy social, economic, and political toll that the elections, most especially presidential elections, entail. In view of the foregoing, immediate approval of this bill is earnestly sought. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Soriano. Before we proceed, may we recognize our committee member, Jose Gay GP Padiernos. We now go to House Bill number 515 by Representative Ramon Jolo B. Revilla III.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished members of this august body, dear guests and everyone here today, good morning. Barangay governments are considered as the smallest local government units and serves as the foundation of good governance. They are the vanguard of local development that partners with the national government to effectively plan and implement programs and projects for the people, as well as enforcing laws and executing government interventions. The composition, qualifications, and power of our arduous barangay officials are sufficiently provided by law to effectively serve our people. While the Local Government Code of 1991 provides that the Sangguniang Kabataan chairman and its members shall hold office for a period of 3 years, the national and local elections have concluded this May 2022. If the government pushes for the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections this year, it will create political fissure among our electorates. Moreover, it is estimated that the December 2022 barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections would cost our national government around 8.44 billion pesos to effectively implement the poll. While we recognize the constitutional right to suffrage of our people, it must also be underscored that our country is still plowing its way towards economic recovery from the dire consequences brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, we must also focus on urgent others, include agricultural and food security, climate change adaptation, improved healthcare and education utilization of renewable energy resources, and strengthened tourism and jobs creation. Hence, House Bill number 515 seeks to postpone December 2022 barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections and reset it from December 5, 2022 to December 4, 2023. I hope that with wisdom and support of the committee, we'll be able to enact this proposed measure into law. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Revilla. Before we proceed, let me acknowledge the Deputy Majority Leader, Wilter Y. Palma, sir, and House Member Muhammad Khalid Q. Dimaporo via Zoom. We now go to House Bill number 937 by Representative Richard I. Gomez. Please proceed, Honorable Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 937, and after postponing the December 22 barangay and SK elections amending for the purpose of Republic Act 9164 as amended by Republic Act 9340 and Republic Act 10632, RA number 10656, RA 10923, RA 10952, and RA 11462 and for other purposes. Mr. Chairman, we must understand that we just came from a very chaotic national and local elections, and election wounds are still very fresh and painful. No? And by postponing this barangay and SK elections this year, the government will be saving about 8+ billion pesos, which can be used for priority programs such as agriculture and the like. And by next year, come budget season, we can put in another budget for elections for next year. And also there's a surge in COVID cases right now, and all barangays are activated to protect our people in the barangays, and it will be very difficult and there will be very little time to teach new barangay officials on COVID COVID protocols. No, and I join everyone, and we can postpone this for next year, or if the committee decides on a specific date, I am for it. Thank you so much, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Gomez. We now go to House Bill number 949 by Representative Patrick Michael D. Vargas. Please proceed. May we ask if Representative PM Vargas is present? We'll go back we now proceed to House Bill number 995 by Representatives Luis Raymond L. Rey F. Villafuerte Jr., Miguel Luis R. Villafuerte, Tsuyoshi Anthony G. Horibata, and Nicholas C. Enciso VIII. Are any of the authors present? We proceed with House Bill number 1035 by Representative Francisco Jose Bing F. Matugas II. Please proceed, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I submit that my explanatory notes be my sponsorship speech, and to add, during the last budget, I defended the budget of the COMELEC, and it was one of the reason that I submit this bill, because it's a big amount. Now I saw the amount lodged at the budget, about 12 billion at that time. And in fact, I proposed to the then Speaker, Lord Alan Velasco, to use the fund to augment the needs of the COMELEC during the recent elections and the needs of the other committees. I submit to the body the date that the body will prefer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Matugas. Before we proceed, let me acknowledge the Honorable Deputy Speaker Aurelio Dong Gonzales Jr. and Representative Jojo Lara.
From Zoom, nandito na siya physically.
And Kong Abalos is now here physically present from Zoom earlier. We proceed with the House Bill number 1110 by Representative Marvin D. Rillo.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly affected the economic health of countries and naturally the livelihood and sustenance of people all over the world. Now, because the virus has been more or less contained and preventive measures have been implemented to keep the lowest minimum, to the lowest minimum, if not totally eradicate its adverse effects, a lot of countries have started to open up to the world again, and relax their restrictions to revive their economies and improve domestic demand conditions. Similarly, here in the Philippines, the present administration of President Ferdinand Marcos aligns its goals to support existing relevant national policies and formulate ways to further sustain the recent steady improvements in the economic conditions of the country, as well as the welfare of the people. Based on the Philippine Statistics Authority, the country's gross domestic products, or GDP, from the third quarter of the previous year, fourth quarter until the first quarter of this year, have steadily increased from 7.0, 7.8, and 8.3 respectively. This just shows that the country's gradual relaxation of pandemic restrictions greatly impacts the economic health of the nation and livelihood of the people. Hence, the policies that should be implemented in our country must further assist in the process of reviving the country's economy and improving the lives of the people. Accordingly, this bill proposes for the postponement of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections on December 5, 2022, as mandated by Republic Act 9164 as amended, to May 6, 2024, and reallocate the supposed budget for the elections of more or less than 8 billion pesos to support and fund the government's effort towards economic recovery and termination of actions against COVID-19. Consequently, the incumbent barangay officials and sangguniang kabataan will continue, among others, to serve their respective localities, provide basic government services, and disseminate relevant information from national government until the incoming set of the officials will take over after the postponed elections. This postponement of the scheduled December 2022 synchronized barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections to the date proposed in the bill will provide a measure of continuity in the national government's effort to combat the ill effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials who shall benefit from the resulting extended term shall surely be effective frontliner partners in the delivery of basic government services to carry out the mandate of national government. But this representation would agree with the proposed scheduled postponement, of which the majority would decide. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Rillo. Before we proceed, may I acknowledge House Member Alfredo Marañon III, who is with us through Zoom, and Committee Member Shirley A. Tantambut. Comsec.
Yes. May we recognize the National President of Liga ng mga Barangay sa Pilipinas, Attorney Eden Chua Pineda.
We now proceed to House Bill number 1138 by Representative Faustino Ino D. the Fifth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in addition to what has been said by many of the authors here today, I know we all agree that postponing the barangay elections will save us upwards of 8 billion pesos that we can use for other recovery programs. But in addition to that, Mr. Chairman, we also have to consider that after barangay and SK elections, all of the newly elected barangay and SK officials all undergo training and pay for these kinds of trainings through their barangay fund. So we're not only saving upwards of 8 billion pesos from our national government, but we're also saving billions of pesos from the barangay funds throughout the whole country, Mr. Chairman. In addition to this, Mr. Chairman, last May, or just of this year, the SK Reform Act was recently amended. So, hayaan mo naman po na sana natin makapag-settle down din po yung amendments and changes to the SK Reform so we can better provide services lalong-lalo na din po sa ating mga sangguniang kabataan. In addition to this, lastly, Mr. Chairman, I had an opportunity to serve also sa barangay captain. Alam ko po yung trabaho bilang isang kapitan. Kasi marami po kasi nagsasabi that or many of our countrymen are calling for barangay and SK elections because there's some who are, or there were some officials who are disappointed with. But Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put it on record that there are other remedies for the national government to sanction or to penalize and even to remove these erring officials from office. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm also amenable to with the body that kung ano po yung mapag-usapan natin dito, willing naman po tayo. Again, Mr. Chairman, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Honorable Inudi. May we proceed with House Bill number 1254 by Representative Emery Lollipop M. Wano Dizon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable members of the committee, my colleagues, first person joining us, guests, good morning. The barangay is mandated by the local government primary planning, implementing units of government policies, plans, programs, projects, and activities in the community, and as a forum where collective views of the people may be expressed, considered, and disputes may be amicably settled. By way of a short trace back, RA number 10953, signed as a law on August 30, 2017, moved the barangay and SK elections dated October 23, 2017, to the second Monday of May 2018. It further provided that the next election would have been on the second Monday of May 2020, and then regularly every 3 years thereafter. Indeed, the barangay and SK elections was held in 2018. But instead of having the next election on the second Monday of 2020, Congress decided to move it to December 5, 2022 through RA number 11446 that was signed into law on December 2019. In effect, the current term of incumbent election barangay and SK elections will be extended by around 2 years, 6 months. I join with the call to postpone the upcoming barangay and SK elections, as it would generate savings to the national coffers to the tune of at least 8 billion plus. This is of help to the new administration as it gives flexibility if it decides to use the funds for other more urgent priorities, given the various problems our country is facing. As to the matter of timing, most of our constituents are fully aware that the barangay and SK elections had already been postponed previously, and consequently, the current officials are enjoying more than 2 years extension, hence extending it to another 2 years, 2024 might not be welcome. I suggested October 2023 proposed House Bill number 1254 because September may not be the most appropriate season for politicking and devising them. It is also the time where agencies, including barangays, are doing their year-end evaluation and similar activities. But with representation, Mr. Chairman, you as a whole will eventually decide. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Wano Dizon. Before we proceed, may I acknowledge the Honorable Chino Miguel D. Almario. We now go to House Bill number 1367 by Representative Chino Miguel D. Almario.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. It is my honor to sponsor House Bill number 1367, and similar to the other bills that were mentioned this morning, they all seek to postpone the barangay and SK elections. In my House bill, it includes the specific date as October 9, 2023. And I am amenable to the committee's decision, and I'm flexible as well on their decision to change to whichever date they prefer. I also did stress here that postponing the barangay and SK elections will be very helpful in the priority programs of our president, in saving money to push it and to realign it to programs that will better help and immediately help our Filipino people as well. So again, thank you for this honor, Mr. Chairman, and to all of our members here. And thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Almario. We now proceed with House Bill number 1696 by Representative Edwin L. Olivares. May we know if Representative Olivares is present?
No. Not online.
We now proceed to House Bill number 1840 by Representative Ron P. Salo.
Online.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed, Honorable Salo.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and to all the members and resource persons. The next Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, Mr. Chair, is set to be held on December 5, 2022, or less than 4 months from now. However, given the coordination costs and expenses of organizing the elections, especially during a global pandemic and just after synchronized national local elections, it is proposed that we give the Commission on Elections and other involved agencies additional time to prepare and ensure a credible and effective barangay elections by postponing it, as I proposing, to October 2, 2023. This will also afford more time for the registration of voters for the barangay elections, particularly those who will vote for the first time. Further, after having gone through a very highly emotionally charged elections held last May of this year, rescheduling the barangay elections will provide a political respite for people and will also allow the new administration to focus on economic reforms and programs that will elevate the plight of our people. Given all the reasons being mentioned by my co-authors, I respectfully join them in calling for the rescheduling the barangay elections, and I will submit to the wisdom of the committee on the exact date when will this be held. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Salo. We now go to House Bill number 1932. Can we ask by Representative Mark Go, who is with us through Zoom?
Yes. Where's the paper?
We will come back later.
Yes, I'm here already, Kong Maxi.
Please proceed, Chair Mark.
Yes, thank you very much. Magandang umaga po sa lahat po ng mga members natin and to all the resource persons. I thank the committee and the Honorable Chair for immediately acting on the proposed measure for the postponement of the upcoming barangay and SK elections, including them in today's agenda. Barangay and SK officials perform an integral role in the development of our nation from the grassroots, from the delivery of basic services to maintaining peace and order. Barangays are the government's longest arm, capable of reaching Filipinos at their actual needs and serving as the most accurate barometer of the community pulse. In addition, the barangay and SK elections are the first introduction for many Filipinos of our country's democratic process. The importance of the barangay in implementing the nation's development agenda and the significance of barangay and SK elections in shaping the political and civic consciousness of our people calls us to genuinely uphold and protect the exercise of our right to vote. The right to suffrage is a constitutionally guaranteed right for all Filipinos not otherwise disqualified by law. However, the conduct of an election does not exist in a vacuum. As it is, the country currently faces more pressing economic and public health concerns that need to first be addressed in order to ensure that the safe and secured and orderly conduct of the barangay and SK elections is not compromised. In recent months, we have seen a sudden spike in the number of COVID cases, not only in the Philippines, but also in other countries as well. This is a palpable reminder that the road to endemic is one that requires continuous vigilance and caution. It should be noted that immediately following the week of May 9 national elections, the daily average of COVID cases in the country went up by 9%. The slight rise went on the succeeding week as the daily average further increased by 8.8%. Meanwhile, the PCIJ reported that COMELEC, according to the 2021 and 2022 annual procurement plans, requested for a budget of 1.5 billion pesos for the purchase of items under COVID-19 supplies. The very cost of ensuring that the conduct of the elections would not turn into a super spreader event that could negate our efforts warrants the postponement of the elections until such time that the safety of the voters in the exercise of the right is better secured. The pandemic-induced economic challenges are also compounded with our worsening unemployment, high inflation, and record-high fuel prices, that providing immediate relief to Filipinos should be a more urgent priority at this point. As Filipinos continue to grapple with these challenges for survival and recovery, it is more prudent to save the billions of pesos allocated for the December 22 elections, that they may instead be utilized for economic stimulus and recovery packages, which could ease the burden on Filipinos as we endeavor to move forward. It is against these present realities that this House Bill 1932 seeks to postpone the conduct of the scheduled December 5, 2022 election and hold it instead on December 4, 2023. In view of the foregoing, Mr. Chair, and considering that we are only less than 4 months away from the scheduled elections, the immediate approval of this bill is earnestly sought. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you, Chair Mark Go. We proceed with House Bill number 1961 by Representative Alfredo D. Marañon. Is the Honorable Marañon present? We now proceed to House Bill number 2057 by Representative Francisco Paulo VP Ortega. Please,
thank you, Honorable Chair. Naimbag nga aldaw to our colleagues, and I share the sentiments and of course the advantages of postponing our barangay and SK elections. And for the record, Honorable Chair, the date of postponement from this representation's filed bill is on May 2024. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ortega. We proceed to House Bill number 2071 by Representative Jaime D. Cojuangco.
Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
Well, Representative Jaime Cojuangco has requested me to inform the committee that he likewise submits his explanatory note as his sponsorship speech. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Delmar. We proceed to House Bill number 2185 by Representative Deputy Speaker Ralph G. Recto. May we know if the Deputy Speaker Ralph G. Recto is present?
Wala siya.
Wala na siya. Kanina online siya, nawala.
He was here online, but we'll go back to the House bills later. We proceed with House Bill number 2235 by Representative Christopherson M. Yap.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Majong buntag sa tanang resource person na to. Considering the important role barangays play in our system of government, especially while the country is still facing a global pandemic, the official mandated to perform its duties and function play a vital role in our recovery. To afford continuity in government operation in the grassroots level, while it pursues measures to deal with the challenges brought by COVID-19 in a macro scale. The term of office of these barangay officials need to be extended to have ready access to their skills and expertise in implementing national programs and projects, pandemic response, and health protocols, among others. Moreover, around 8.5 billion pesos at least allocated for the coming barangay and SK elections could be tapped by the government for other programs aimed at hastening economic recovery and extending more financial support to the marginalized by the pandemic. These proposed measures seeks to postpone the December 5, 2022 barangay election and SK election to the second Monday of October 2024 for the above stated purposes. It is also meant to revert back the village polls to the original intended by RA 9164. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Yap. We proceed with House Bill number 2240 by Representative Dean Asistio. Please proceed, Honorable Asistio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. The Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan offices are in charge of formulating the plans and programs in their respective areas, making them the front line in the delivery of government services. More importantly, they are the most accessible during this pandemic. As of this day, our country is still recovering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we continue to face numerous challenges that are in need of long-term solutions. Hence, stability and constancy in the implemented policies and programs are truly a must. In this regard, this legislation proposes to postpone the synchronized barangay and SK elections from December 2022 to first Monday of March 2024, and every 3 years thereafter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Asistio. We proceed with House Bill number 2476 by Representative Florencio Gabriel Bem G. Noel. Please proceed, Honorable Noel.
Damo nga salamat, Mr. Chair. Maupay nga aga aton nga tanan. May I request that the explanatory note be recorded and considered as our sponsorship speech, and this representation from Anwaray, along with all the authors, will be ready to sponsor, hear, and defend the said measure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Noel. I think Representative Marañon is already here. Are you present to sponsor House Bill number 1961?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Please
Good
proceed.
morning, members of the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms. Mr. Chair, I would like to manifest that my explanatory note remained as my sponsorship speech, and I am amenable to the wishes of the majority as to when we will reset the barangay and SK elections, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Maranyon. We now proceed to House Bill number 2494 by Representative Maria Teresa V. Colliantes. Please proceed, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill seeks to postpone the upcoming barangay and sanggunian kabataan elections from December 5, 2022 to October 2, 2023. COVID-19 pandemic has caused economic and social disruption worldwide. It has significantly challenged worldwide leaders, especially in addressing crises in food security, public health, people's livelihood and employment and labor issues. The Philippines as a developing country is not spared and is greatly affected by these challenges. The barangay is the smallest political unit in our country, but it is considered the front line of our government, which has the direct impact on the lives of the Filipino people. The barangay officials play a pivotal role in delivering the necessary programs of our government in addressing the adverse effects of the pandemic. Considering the uncertainty on when and will COVID-19 pandemic will finally end, the proposed postponement will create enough time and opportunity for the current barangay and sanggunian kabataan officials to provide assistance and support to the newly elected national and local officials in designing and implementing measures that will ensure the effective delivery of government programs directly to our people. In the view of the foregoing, the approval of this bill is earnestly sought. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Colliantes. Before we proceed, may we recognize first our colleagues who is here, Representative Raul Boboy C. Tupas, Representative Maria Victoria C. Copilar, and Deputy Speaker Isidro T. Ungab, who is with us through Zoom. We proceed to House Bill number 2576 by Representative Florida Rida P. Robles.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed, Honorable Robles.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Mr. Chair, dear colleagues, and invited resource persons. I am pleased to present to you House Bill number 2576 to postpone the scheduled barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections from December 5, 2022 to the second Monday of May 2023. Mr. Chair, recent degenerative events such as the COVID-19 pandemic and recent global events have greatly affected the Philippine economy. Furthermore, the country has just recently concluded the national and local elections where resources were utilized. The bottom line of which is to raise the country to a more sound economic level. This is also to direct available resources in infusing economic growth through suitable rebuilding and infrastructure development. Mr. Chair, the passage of this bill is earnestly sought. Magandang umaga po at maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Honorable Robes. May we first acknowledge the presence of Representative G.P. Padiernos. Sorry. We proceed with House Bill number 2932 by Representative Joseph Jojo L. Lara. Please proceed, Your Honor.
Again, Apo Chairman, sa atin lahat na nandito ngayong umaga, my dear colleagues, of course, sa ating mga bisita, pamunuan po ng COMELEC, resource persons na imbag na bigat kanya tayo amin na po. Mr. Chairman, may I respectfully manifest that the explanatory note on House Bill 2932 be my sponsorship speech for said legislative measure. Yaman na po. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Jojo Lara. We now proceed with House Bill number 2984 by Deputy Speaker Aurelio Dong G. D. Gonzalez Jr. Please proceed, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all of you, to our resource persons, especially to our former President, Deputy Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and of course, Mike Cabalen in the second district, all barangay captains. I understand they're here this morning. To all of you, good morning. To the Honorable Chairperson, my esteemed colleagues, and to our resource persons, magandang umaga po sa atin lahat. So under the House Bill 2984, I propose to amend the law governing the manner of election in terms of barangay executives, including SK officials from the current 3 years per term with maximum 3 consecutive terms. It will be increased into 5 years per term, but with a maximum of only 2 consecutive terms. Bagong bagay po ang extension of years per term. Hindi po ito bago at this trend could be traced back starting from Batasang Pambansa bilang 881, 1985, which sought for a 6-year term before the enactment of Republic Act number 7160, known as the Local Government Code of 1991. Congress enacted Republic Act number 6653 on May 1988 with a 5-year, 2-term provision. The length of term was further expanded into a 5-year, 3-term setting through a passage of a Republic Act number 6679. After the passage of this local government code, Mr. Chairman, 1991, a measure was enacted into law on February 1998, the Republic Act number 8524. It amended Republic Act number 7160, particularly Section 43C, which states that the term of barangay officials and members of the Sangguniang Kabataan shall be for 5 years with 3 consecutive terms. But it was only in 2002, by the virtue of Republic Act 9164, the years of service was cut down into 3 years. In the postponement of a new thing also, again, through the Republic Act number 9340, the supposed barangay and SK election to be held on October 2005 were postponed until 2007. Postponement happened again after a decade when the passage of Republic Act 10923 postponed the scheduled October 2016 barangay and SK elections to October 2017, Mr. Chairman. So, the supposed October 17, 2017 elections were again postponed by until May 2018 by the virtue of Republic Act 10952 in 2019. Both the upper and lower house once again united to postpone the next scheduled election through a Republic Act number 11462, which reset the elections on December 5, 2002. My dear colleagues, Mr. Chairman, it has been almost 5 years again since the last time the elections of barangay and SK officials were held. And the years of service in the incumbent officials are almost reaching 5 years by 2023. Essentially, we have been extending their terms so that to was originally prescribed
by then in Republic Act 85-24 through postponements again. If we are looking to synchronize the elections comprehensively and definitively, why not make it official through the passage of the proposed measure into new law? Walang bago, nagawa po na natin ito. Our barangay leaders are our frontliners at the grassroots level. Their task, needless to say, is Herculean in nature, and a 3-year term is a very short for deserving officials. Through this proposed amendment, it will provide the opportunity to enable the continuity of service that leads to increased effectiveness in the implementations of their programs, policies, and projects for their constituency. Currently, we live amidst trying times, and our nation, soldier son, on the country needs additional sources to meet the pressing needs of the people. Hindi pa tapos ang tao, ito pero kitang-kita natin ang matinding pangangailangan ng bansa para sa karagdagang pondo. Not only we are still dealing with the pandemic, but we are also struggling to deal with threat of climate change and unprecedented increase on standards of living due to global events. The recent earthquake in northern Luzon and the massive flooding in places south of the country brought widespread damage in the affected areas. The 8.4 billion pesos fund allotted for the conduct of December 2022 election could be utilized instead in providing relief to our affected countrymen, where it would make the most significant impact. So, Mr. Chairman, once again, I urge each and everyone to have an open mind in today's deliberation. Let us be united in extending the terms of our barangay executives definitively and subsequently call for the postponement of the upcoming election so as to give all the stakeholders greater time and space to work what needs to be done. It is the firm belief that this representation, that the nation stands to the benefit greatly for the important piece of legislation. So, Mr. Chairman, takal pong salamat. Maya pa.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker Aurelio Dong G. Gonzales Jr. Before we proceed, may I acknowledge our committee member, the Honorable Jefferson F. Konghun. Comsec.
We recognize the presence of National Movement for Pre-Elections, Mr. Angel Averia Jr., and PPCRB National Communications, Media and Public Relations Director, Ms. Ana de Villa Simpson.
We proceed with House Bill number 2985 by Representative Salvador A. Plato. Please proceed, Honorable Plato.
Honorable Chairman, my dear colleagues and our esteemed guests, bigat yung amin na po. Magandang umaga po. Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit my explanatory note as my sponsorship speech. I would just like to add that I submit the schedule to the knowledge and decision of this committee. Not all areas are affected by the pandemic the same way. Thus, I submit the schedule to the discussions of this committee. Maraming salamat po. Ay, nako.
Thank you, Honorable Plato. We proceed to House Bill number 2986 by Representative Nelson L. Dayanghirang.
He sent a letter.
He cannot.
Cannot attend, but he will abide by the decision.
I think he sent a letter that he cannot be physically present, but he will be. He said that he will abide with the decision of the majority. We proceed with House Bill number 3310 by Representative Josefina B. Tagliado. Is the Honorable Tagliado present? We now proceed to House Bill number 3324 by Representative Jefferson F. Conghun. Please proceed, Honorable Conghun.
Mr. Chair, good morning. I join the proposal of my colleagues in this plenary to suspend the 2022 barangay and SK elections for good reasons. We have fairly similar basis for this legislation. First, it is best at this time to realign the budget for the said election and focus our attention on COVID response and other priority projects of this administration. And second, to afford the continuity and consistency in government operations at the barangay level, as our current barangay and SK officials already have access to institutional memories, which is important as of this time. In the legislation that is submitted, I propose for an October 2024 election and 3 years thereafter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Conghun. We now go to House Bill number 3384 by Deputy Minority Leader Mujib S. Hataman, who is with us through Zoom. Please proceed, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Assalamualaikum. Mr. Chair, please consider the explanatory note as my sponsorship. But just for the record, Mr. Chair, I would like to emphasize that the proposed measure, the date of the election be moved to May 2024. However, like other colleagues, this representation submit to the wisdom of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minority Leader. We proceed with House Bill 3426 by Representative Siti Amina Q. Dimaporo. Please proceed.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair. This legislative measure aims to postpone and reset the scheduled synchronized barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections on December 5, 2022 to a later date in December 2024. The last barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections was held last October 2018. By virtue of Republic Act number 10952, but the succeeding synchronized elections is scheduled this coming December 5, 2022, by virtue of Republic Act number 11462. But as we are only trying to recover from the years of hard lockdowns brought about by this COVID-19 pandemic, the conduct of the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections may definitely affect our national coffers. The projected cost for the conduct of the synchronized barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections will amount to around 8 billion, an amount that may be used to help boost our economic standing post-pandemic. For these reasons, this measure seeks to postpone the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections to December 2024, thereby saving the earmarked budget of 8 billion that may be utilized by this new administration to jumpstart our economic recovery, which is ultimately beneficial to the Filipino people. In view of the foregoing, the immediate passage of this bill is earnestly sought.
Thank you, Honorable Siti Amina Q. Dimaporo. We proceed with House Bill 3427 by the Honorable Representative Muhammad Khalid Q. Dimaporo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to submit my explanatory note as the sponsorship speech. And in essence, I would like to say on the record that my proposed bill proposes to postpone the barangay and SK elections from the 19th Congress to the 20th Congress, which is December 2025. Because it is my personal opinion that the priorities of the 19th Congress should be economic recovery from the COVID pandemic. And we will need the fiscal space in the 2022, 2023, and 2024 budgets. For your consideration, Mr. Chair, and as always, I will vote and I will move and I will support whatever the decision is of the majority. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Muhammad Khalid QD Maporo. We again ask Representative Paul Ruiz Daza if he is here to sponsor House Bill number 41 or other authors who are present. Representative Michael L. Romero for House Bill number 333. Representative Gus S. Tambunting for House Bill 398. Representative Patrick Michael D. Vargas for House Bill number 949. Representatives Luis Raymond L. Ray F. Villafuerte Jr., Miguel Luis R. Villafuerte, Kiyoshi Anthony G. Horibata, and Nicolas C. Enciso VIII for House Bill number 995. Representative Edwin L. Olivares for House Bill 1696. And Deputy Speaker Ralph G. Recto for House Bill 2185. Representative Josefina B. Taliado for House Bill 3310. If they are not here, we proceed with our resource persons. But Representative Barsaga, sir.
Mr. Chairman, considering that some of our colleagues are not present and were not able to present the justification for their respective bills, I must respectfully move that their explanatory note, as stated in their bills, be considered as part of our proceedings.
It has been moved and seconded that all those who are not present, that their explanatory note be considered as their sponsorship speech. Are there any objections? Bearing none, the motion is approved.
Members and comments on the
Magko-comments ba sila? We now go to the resource persons for any comments or any presentation, but can we ask that you limit your time to 5 minutes only per presenter? We first would go to the Honorable George Garcia, the chairperson of the Commission on Elections. Please proceed, Your Honor.
With the kind permission of the Honorable Chair, may I respectfully remove my mask?
Thank you. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Honorable Chair and the members of the honorable body. As far as the Commission on Election is concerned, we recognize that the power to postpone the election or even to extend the term of office of barangay and SK officials rests solely to the absolute prerogative of Congress. Under the Constitution, under Article 10, Section 8, it specifically provides that the term of office of barangay of local officials shall be 3 years, except barangay officials, which can be provided for by law. We recognize that, and therefore, as far as the issue of postponement is concerned, it is a political question. Kami po sa Commission on Election, we will just abide by the mandate of Congress and the executive as far as postponing the election is concerned, whether it be May of 2023, December of 2023, wag naman pong 2024. Because we are so, by that time, we'll be preparing for the 2025 election. So it's okay with us even if it is 2023 May or December of 2023. Sa kasalukuyan po, we are now preparing for the December 5, 2022 elections. For the information of the honorable body, we were given, as correctly pointed out by a member of this body earlier, we were given 8.449 billion pesos as the budget for the SK and barangay elections. As of today, we have spent only 800,000 pesos as of, out of that money. But in the next few days and month or weeks or months, we will be spending from that money because we will now start with our procurement as well as printing of the ballots. And that is where the urgency lies. Kaya po nakikiusap po kami na sana po ay mabigyan kagad kami ng direction sapagkat magpiprint na po kami ng balota. We will be printing 90 million ballots for the information of the honorable body. 90 million ballots, almost 67 million for the regular voters and 25 million for the SK voters. So more or less 90 million po yon. If the National Printing Office will have 3 machines, printing machines to print the ballots, per average during our previous experience, ang isang machine po nakakapag-print ng 1 to 1.5 million ballots. So try to imagine po 90 million po yun. So we'll be needing at least 20 days to print the 90 million ballots. 20 days po yun. And so, because we'll be needing 20 days, hindi pa po kasama yung verification of each and every ballot. So give us at least 1 month to 1 month and 1 week to verify and prepare the ballots. And we will also be needing at least 3 weeks before the election to ship and deliver all the election paraphernalia to the different provincial treasurers nationwide in 81 provinces and the cities that we have kasi sila po magdi-distribute na election paraphernalia. But wag po kayo mag-alala. Even if we will be procuring already certain materials such as ball pen, such as indelible ink. We will be procuring, for example, the ballot boxes. Huwag po kayo maglala, wala pong masasayang na pondo ng sambayanan sapagkat yung po naman bibili namin kung sakasakali ay yung po rin yung gagamitin natin kung sakali pong ipopospone ninyo yung ating SK and barangay election. So wala pong masasayang na pondo. Huwag lang pong sobrang tagal ng election sapagkat baka matuyo po yung tinta ng indelible ink at saka po yung mga ball pen natin. So yun lang po sa amin, maybe hanggang next year, hindi pa po matutuyo yon. But I want likewise to point a reality for the honorable members of the committee to please kindly consider. If we are going likewise to postpone the election, even by May or December next year, take note po that we will have to continue the registration of our voters. There will be a continuing registration. So if you're going to postpone, for example, by next year, by May, we will have to proceed with the registration again of our voters by October of this year, up to perhaps by March of next year. So ganun po kahaba. And therefore, that will entail additional number of voters, additional ballots, additional indelible inks, additional ball pen, additional padlocks, additional boxes, and therefore, additional teachers. Kasi po presently, we are estimating based sa 90 million, meron po tayong more or less na mga 200,000 precincts. Kasi po, i-decluster natin ang mga presinto, Your Honors. Dati po, we have only 107,000 precincts. But now we will have
almost 200,000 precincts. If we're going to continue with the registration, ang projection namin, we will have at least 235,000 precincts, and therefore, kasama na po dyan yung SK and barangay kasi kalahati po tig-isang box bawat isang presinto. That will entail, pasensya na po kayo, konting additional cost na dagdag doon sa aming binigay yung budget na 8.449 billion. At the same time po, tatandaan po natin na ang ating kagalang-galang na Pangulo ay na-veto po yung tax exemption sa ating mga guro. Kami po sa Commission on Election ay maninikluhod sa ating mga kagalang-galang na miyembro ng Kongreso na sana po ay mapagbigyan din na yung mga guro naman natin dahil natanggal yung tax exemption nila, mataasan yung bawat araw na honoraria po na natatanggap po nila. Hindi naman po ganun kalaki kung tataasan natin sapagkat para naman po yung dapat na buwis na dapat matatanggal sa kanila ay hindi po natanggal, at least po yung take home nila ay ganun pa rin. So yun po yung additional cost na madadagdag kung sakasakali magpo-postpone po tayo ng election. But don't worry, Your Honors, your Commission on Election is ready, willing, and prepared to conduct the election, whether it be this year or whether it be next year. Just provide us with the proper direction and we can do it. Thank you very much, Your Honors.
Thank you, Chairperson Attorney George Erwin Garcia. Sir.
Just a clarification, Madam Chair. Well, we have been receiving complaints coming from our young voters that because of the limited time for registration, only a period of 30 days, so many of them were not able to register. My first inquiry, Mr. Chair, is what is the number of projection of the voters that will vote in the event that the elections will be held in December 2022? And what was the actual number of registrants? Were we able to achieve your target or not?
Your Honor, Honorable
yes, Mr. Chair.
Chairperson George G. Garcia, please answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Your Honor, to the first query of the Honorable Vice Chairperson of the committee, why we stopped the registration and we limited the registration of voters only for 30 days. It's because, Your Honor, of Republic Act 8189, which specifically provides that there can be no more registration 120 days before the conduct of the election. So it's in as much as we would like to extend the registration, the problem is the law provides for such. Now, Your Honor, we have almost 25 million voters for the Sangguniang election, 25 million. And so if in case, Your Honor, we will be postponing the election and again continue with the continuing registration, our projection is those who are to be 15 and who will become voters, we will have additional at least 1 to 2 million voters for the SK election. So ganun lang po yung dagdag. Pero just the same, Your Honor, yan po yung mga mag-15. Pero ang problem po, tama po yung point nyo po, Mr. Chair, yung pong mga hindi nakapagparehistro naman dahil hindi inabot doon sa 30 days na binigay po namin.
So, in short, Mr. Chair, gaano karami ang nakarehistro as compared to their target?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, anyway, the Honorable Chairperson Garcia is still looking for his numbers. I just want to ask some clarificatory questions, Mr. Chairman.
We first let the Chairman, Chairperson Garcia, answer the query of Representative Barsaga.
Mr. Chair, with your kind permission, to answer the question of the Honorable Vice Chair, supposedly our projection was we could have registered 29,088,496. However, we were only able to actually register, and we received 24,457,363. And hopefully, Mr. Chair, hopefully, if we are able to continue again the registration, then the difference will be the number of registrants that is expected to register in the continuing registration.
In the event that the elections will be postponed, definitely there will be continuing registration because the prohibition under the present law of 120 days will not be applicable.
That is right, Mr. Chair.
One final point. At present, we have Republic Act 1146-1. And under this law, the elections are to be held this coming December. And because this is the existing law, there is no valid reason for you to stop the procurement process until and unless there is a new law repealing this law. Will that be correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And therefore, we are in full swing for our preparation, Mr. Chair.
So, in short, if we shall be postponing the election, Mr. Chair, there is an extreme urgency to act immediately on the postponement with the passage of a new law.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Agree, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Honorable Franz Pumare.
Yes, anyway, I was thinking that we will finish all the resource speakers before we start asking questions. But anyway, my mentor here already started the questioning. If I may address the question to the Honorable Garcia. So likewise, you mentioned we'll be incurring expenses, additional budget if we will postpone it. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
So more or less, if we will postpone it till next year, let's say December, how much ang additional cost natin?
To be very honest, Mr. Chair, that is a very good question. We have 8.449 billion pesos right now. If we're going to postpone the election and increase the honorarium of poll watchers on the assumption that Congress will be that kind enough to increase the honorarium plus the expenses for the continuing registration and such other additional, we need additional 5 billion.
5 billion?
Yes, Your Honor.
So because based on the explanation of the proponents, some of them are mentioning makatipid tayo. So basically, hindi pala makatipid. We will be incurring additional 5 billion if we postpone it.
That is true, Mr. Chair.
So I think we should try to look at that angle na alisin na natin yung sinasabi makatipid because we will be incurring additional 5 billion. Now, there are some proposals that the election be, I think, 2024. So kung 2024, there's going to be additional 10 billion. Tama po ba?
That may also be correct, Your Honor.
So, so Mr. Chairman, I think we have to consider that factor also. Kung ang main intention natin for postponing this election is makatipid, mali pala. 5 billion palang madadagdagan pa sa atin. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Congresswoman Copilar.
Yes, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I would really appreciate your candor and honesty regarding telling us na instead of makakatipid ay dadagdag pa yung expenses because of the additional registered voters. My point is clarification. You said a while ago that you have 8.4 billion allotted for COMELEC as fact. Okay? Itong 8.4 billion na ito, pag hindi ba natuloy ang barangay election, ito ba ay pwedeng gamitin sa ibang bagay? Di ba hindi? Hindi rin pwede siyang ilagay sa ibang project. Tama ba?
Mr. Chair, you are correct. In fact, when we postponed the election in 2016 under Republic Act 10923, and we likewise again postponed the election in 2017 under Republic Act 11462. There was a provision on the continuing appropriation of the budget intended for the barangay and SK election. Of course, in 2018 and 2016, there was an additional appropriation because at that time, the SK election was not included yet. So yun po, continuing appropriation po, hindi po namin pwedeng galawin yun for any other purpose.
Yes, thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, the reason why I asked that, because it's been, I've been listening to all the explanatory note of the sponsors about the postponement of the barangay election and the SK election. And one of the reason or rationale is about makakatipid, and the 8 billion will be spent sana sa ibang bagay to gear up our economy, which is the very core of the present administration of our President BBM. Pero as Sir Honorable George Garcia is explaining, the chairperson of COMELEC, yung 8.4 billion, it's not a saving because it is already allotted sa COMELEC, diba? Second, and you expound also and explain with clarity, full clarity, that extending the election na napakatagal will even incur us another 5 billion or more. So sana, Mr. Chair, my point is we should not always say that if we postpone the election, makakatipid tayo, or if we postpone the election, it could help the 8 billion to gear up the economy, no? Especially we are just recovering from a pandemic. So ang punto ko, why? Because, Mr. Chair, I am a barangay captain for 3 term. I was a Kagawad, barangay captain for 3 term, a 3-termer councilor before ako naging congressman. Okay lang, I favor that we extend the barangay election, postpone the barangay election until May. But to prolong it, we cannot just give the Filipino or our constituents in each barangay a bare minimum of service. Kaya sana we have, I propose that, okay, we postpone, but not too long. Because of course the expenses and the other probably mga circumstances, especially, I repeat, the bare minimum, we cannot give bare minimum to our constituents.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Congresswoman Popular. Please proceed, Representative.
May I clarify this issue? Mr. Chair, insofar as the COMELEC is concerned, if the elections will push through in December this year, will the amount of 8.4 billion be sufficient to hold the elections?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
That's right.
Next question. What will be the additional expense on the part of the COMELEC if the elections will be postponed? For example, it would be reset for a period of 1 year. Instead of December this year, it will be December 2023.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First, we will be registering new voters, so that will entail cost because that will be a nationwide registration, continuing registration of voters. Number two, because of the increase of the number of voters, try to imagine, Your Honor, from 29 million, we were able to register only 24. From 68, we were able to register only 67. So more or less, Your Honor, that will, because of the additional number of voters, we will create additional precincts. And because of the additional precincts, we'll be hiring additional poll workers, 3 poll workers per precinct. And because we'll be hiring additional poll workers, we'll be giving them additional honoraria. We will be training them for the election duties on election day. And likewise, we'll be dealing additional forms, additional materials, such as ballots, such as ballot boxes, such as pen and indelible inks and such others, Mr. Chair.
For clarification, in the event that the elections will push through this coming December, when will the continuing registration start?
Then we can start, Your Honor, even by February of next year.
February this year.
Next year,
And
yes, sir.
therefore, kung itutuloy natin ang continuing registration, those who were not able to register for the SK or barangay elections, they will be also registering as new voters for the next elections, national or local.
That is right, Mr. Chair, for the
And with the same
2025.
manner, we shall be also is spending money for the continuing registration, even if the elections will be held through this December. Will that be a correct assumption?
That is a correct assumption,
Secondly-
except, Mr. Chair, that when we register by 2028, there will be no more SK. And therefore, the registration will just be for the regular election.
No, my point, Mr. Chairman, is that, kung sila ay hindi na magre-register as SK, naturally, they have to register as new voters for the 2028 elections.
That's right, Mr. Chair.
So there will be practically the same number with the exception of those SK whose ages are not yet qualified to be voters at the age of 18.
That is right, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Pagkatapos, yung sinasabi natin mga ballpen, etc., naturally expected natin yan na tumaas. It's possible that tumaas din ang ating mga number of voters in the event that there will be SK and barangay elections if there will be postponement.
That's right, Mr. Chair, including even the inflationary rate, Your Honor.
Yes, definitely. I think the issue of whether makakatipid tayo or hindi will not be the primary issue. The primary issue will be, number one, the will of the legislator, number two, the desire of the public, and finally, considering that more than 38 congressmen filed this bill, that only shows the sentiment of Congress insofar as postponing the elections are concerned. There are other reasons. Number one, katatapos pa lamang ng halalan, the wounds have not yet healed insofar as the last elections are concerned. Number two, alam naman natin ang problema lagi sa halalan, especially in barangay elections. It's more troublesome. There will be more problems as compared to local and national elections. So that's my point. I think we don't have to consider kung makakatipid or hindi.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Honorable Barsaga. Maybe the Honorable Deputy Speaker Dong Gonzales is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, may tanong lang ako. If the election will held on December 2022, cut off na ba yung registration natin as of today? Wala na nag-register.
Wala na po, Mr. Chair.
Number two, kung halimbawa matutuloy yung election, mapopostpone ng December 2023 or May 2023, ano yung cut-off natin sa registration?
Mr. Chair, kung sakali pong May 2023 ang ating election, so more or less ang cut-off po natin is mga January or early part of February. Kung sakali naman po, Mr. Chair, na ang ating election ay December of 2023, ang cut-off po namin mga August.
Okay.
Last week.
Nasa batas naman po yun, Mr. Chairman, di ba?
That's right, Mr. Chair.
So number 3 po, Mr. Chairman, yung makakatipid, palagay ko hindi tayo makakatipid. Siguro we can use this as quick fix. Quick fix meaning to say we need more funds for this. We're fighting pandemic, etc. Hindi tayo makakatipid talaga. Kasi gagastos din tayo sa next election, di ba? As Chairman said that additional 5 billion, additional 10 billion for another postponement. So I think the lump sum of that, the summation that is 18 billion gagamitin natin kung mapopostpone tayo. Yun lang, Mr. Chairman. Kaya hindi nga tayo makakatipid. So what is the pleasure of the body? I think we can
Mr.
tackle
Chair.
that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, DS Dong Gonzales. Can we recognize Representative Franz L. Castro?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as we know, the registration of the new registrants for the SK and barangay elections have already finished, right? So, ang ibig sabihin nun, preparation ito sana doon sa December 5 na election. So kung meron po tayong 8 billion na budget, so yun po ba ay enough para doon sa sorry po kasi hindi ko naano kanina yung flow nung yung po Mr. Chair, yung po bang 8 billion ay enough para doon sa pagpapatuloy ng election for December 5 Commissioner.
Attorney George,
Chair.
please.
Mr. Chair, yes, enough po yung 8.449 billion sa aming preparasyon para sa December 5, 2022 elections. Kaya lang po, for the information po, Mr. Chair of the body, nung po kasing binigay sa amin yung budget na yon, syempre po wala pa yung sa tungkol sa tax ng mga guro. So yung naka-factor in lang po doon yung kanilang tinatanggap nung mga nung dating eleksyon. And so dahil nga po sila ay papatawan ng buwis sa kanilang katanggapin ng honoraria, so bababa po ng konti. Katulad din po nung nakaraang eleksyon yung kanilang kikitain.
Mr. Chair, thank you po. So ibig sabihin, magkano po yung halimbawa idadagdag natin doon sa budget, Mr. Chair?
Kung sakali po, Mr. Chair, kung sakali po na dadagdagan natin yung sahod po ng ating yung pong honorarium po ng ating mga guro para lang makompensate do sa wala nung tax exemption po nila, 3 billion po, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so yung 3 billion na so ibig sabihin, ang COMELEC ba ay talagang umaayon din doon sa postponement nung election natin?
Kami po, Mr. Chair, we will proceed with our preparation. Handang-handa po kami, Mr. Chair, para sa December 5, 2022 na election. So if the desire of Congress is to proceed, we can proceed with the election. So kami po, we will bow to your wise discretion, Mr. Chair.
Saan niyo po kukuhanin yung 3 billion more para doon sa mga teachers?
Kung sakali po, Mr. Chair, ay sa Kongreso po, kung sakaling ibibigay po sa amin ng Kongreso.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Siguro, Mr. Chair, sa bahagi po, di ba po ako
Mr. Chair.
tapos? May I continue, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Representative Castro, please proceed.
Ayun po, narinig naman natin sa COMELEC yung preparation, nagde-ready para doon sa December election. So sa bahagi po ng ACT Teachers Party List, kami po ay hindi pumapayag na ma-postpone pa dahil sa unang-una, ilang beses na nating ipinostpone yung election, Mr. Chair, that tantamount to depriving the people of the right to vote. Sa ngayon, dahil tapos na po yung term ng mga SK and barangay officials, ang ibig sabihin nito ay ina-appoint natin yung mga barangay officials at saka yung mga SK officials dahil dun sa tapos na yung kanilang term. We oversteps the principle of making people choose for their representative in the barangay and SK election. In terms naman po nung mitigating COVID-19, Mr. Chair, we have proven in the May 2022 election na na-overcome natin. Kung iniisip natin, ang barrier ay yung COVID-19 na spike. So na-prove natin sa May 22 na naging safe yung ating election. Siguro gusto natin marinig, Mr. Chair, yung mga position ng SK kung meron. Kasi we have here gathered the position paper of the different organization of students and SK para yung kanilang position po about the postponement ay sila po ay tumututol. So yun po, Mr. Chair, we are going to submit po yung position paper ng ating mga SK and different organizations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Franz Castro. Honorable Rillo, please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Sa akin lang ay I think it's a bit premature to say that malulugi po tayo ng 5 billion piso, no? Dahil for me, you have to look at the bigger picture, no? As I have stated in my explanatory note na yung third quarter, fourth quarter natin, pataas po yung GDP natin eh. Maaaring malugi tayo 5 billion, pero may tanong tayo, dapat tanongin na, paano pag na-postpone, magkano naman nakikitain ng gobyerno? If we reallocate the 8 billion peso budget, no? But for me, sabi nga ni Congressman Barsaga, yung aking idol, that let's look at the bigger picture at sabihin na, huwag natin pag-usapan kung malulugi yung hindi. pag-usapan natin kung bakit natin ipopostpone. And for me, I'm amenable with the proposed House bill of the Honorable Gonzales na lagyan natin ng finality when we postpone the barangay elections. Lagyan na natin ng term limit kung ilang taon ba talaga. So we will not go to and pass through this process. We postpone it, pagpapalapit na, magkaroon na talaga ng firm term limit yung barangay officials. When we postpone it now, we have to be firm and set that real term limit of the barangay officials. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Rillo.
Mr. Chair.
Honorable Gomez, please proceed.
Yes, I just would like to ask the Commission, Mr. Chair, regarding budget for teachers. No, if we will push through with the elections this year, and because of the taxes that will be incurred by the teachers, yung honorarium nila mas bababa. Am I correct?
You are right, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so if we will postpone our elections this year and move it to next year, then the budget can be adjusted. Tama na yung magiging honorarium nila, tama rin yung taxes na ibibigay na babayaran for the honorarium. Am I correct?
You are perfectly correct, Mr. Chair. That is an opportunity for us to increase at least the honoraria being received by our poll workers.
So definitely, hindi malulugi sa trabaho yung mga poll watchers natin.
Hindi po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And expenses will definitely increase because of many reasons: increase in registrants, increase in printing materials and paraphernalias, increase in number of poll watchers, and inflation will always take place in our country. Definitely, every year magkakaroon ng inflation, and that's the reason why expenses will always go up. Nagrereklamo nga tayo, mababa yung sweldo natin kasi gusto natin next year mataas ang sweldo natin. It's the same thing for all activities that we will do. Always, we will have to adjust every time we go on the table and do our budget. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much to the Commission.
Just a brief rejoinder.
Honorable Barsaga, please.
Well, I would like to emphasize that the elections, insofar as barangay and SK are concerned, would be manual elections. The job of our teachers would be much more tedious, considering that the opposing parties are coming from the same barangay, sometimes from the same families, and also we have to apply the rules of interpretation insofar as the vote is concerned. Eh kung mababawasan pa ang kanilang honorarium, lalo nang magagalit sa atin ang mga teacher, mas mahirap tumao sa mga presinto insofar as barangay elections are concerned as compared to national and local elections, which happen to be automated. No discretion is being given to the teacher.
Mr. Chair, you are correct. Medyo mahirap po yung appreciation of the ballots. Sa atin po sa computerized election, pinapasok lang po natin sa makina. Dito po mano-mano, habang nasa likod yung mga watchers, medyo napakainit, and therefore, minsan po may mga mag-o-object pa, may mga manggugulong ibang watcher, and may posibilidad na nandun yung kalimitan nag-aaway sa mismong presinto. Even in an ideal situation of even a 400 to 500 voters per precinct, abutin po ng ilang oras din po yun sa pag-appreciate. Kasi sinasalansan pa po yun, tinatali natin sa goma, tapos isa-isang binibilang ng mga teachers natin. I would really readily admit na base sa aking experience at nakikita ko po, mas mahirap ang mag-conduct ng manual election talaga po.
Mr. Chair.
Honorable Barsaga, are you done?
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Please proceed, Representative Fortes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point to consider, Mr. Chair. From among these sponsorship speeches and summaries submitted, one of the primordial consideration for the postponement is that it coincided with the national local elections, meaning we just can't have too much election in 1 year. There are proposals for a fixed term of 4 and 5 years. Remember that the local and national officials has a fixed term of 3 years. If we do a countdown, 2022, 25, 28, 31 is the election of the local. If we go for a 4-year term, 23, which is next year, the next is 27, and next is 31. And 31 will coincide again with the local election. If we go for a 5-year term, it's 23 next year, 28, 33, and 38. 38 will again coincide with the local election in 2038. Just a point to ponder in fixing the term by this committee, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Honorable Fortes. DS Dong, please.
I agree with Congressman Fortes. I think nakinig siya sa aking, narinig niya yung aking mensahe, that we have to fix it. Well, 3 years, sabi ko nga, is too short. So itong bill ko is 2 parts. One is the postponement from December 2022 to December 2023. Second is to fix the term. Instead of 3 years, gagawin nating 5 years. Halimbawa, kapitan ako ngayon, meron akong isang termino, magre-re-elect ako sa December, assuming 2022 or 2023. So this is my last term, but equivalent to 5 years na yun. Hindi na ako pwedeng tumakbo sa 2028 kasi tapos na yung second term ko as 5 years. So ito aking batas, dalawang part po ito, Mr. Chairman. Pangatlo, I think we have to fix it para at least kung mag-print na po sila ng balota or kasi ang COMELEC, naghahantay lang po sa atin, this is a political decision. Kung ano po yung decision natin, we have to decide it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, DS Dong.
Mr. Chair.
Please proceed, Representative Castro.
Yes. Okay, pinag-usapan kasi natin, magko-coincide dyan dun sa national election. And when we postponed it via Republic Act number 11462, alam natin na election ng national. Di po ba? Kasi 2018 supposedly yung election nung natin, barangay and SK election, na sana hindi siya nag-coincide. Pero dahil syempre action din ng ating institution na ma-postpone yan, kaya nag-coincide. So dalawa po yung dito, Mr. Chair, postponement and at the same time yung term extension. Kasi fixed naman po ng batas yung 3 years. So are we going to decide dito po kung talagang i-extend natin yung term limit as proposed by our dear DS Dong Gonzales, kasi may dalawa po dito or ipopostpone with a 3-year term. So ganun po yung i-decide natin dito, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair. Are you done, Representative?
Mr. Chair, thank you po.
Can we ask first?
Well, by way of background there, I actively participated in the enactment of 11461. And during the time, in our committee hearings, the COMELEC has been always saying na hindi namin kaya na 6 na buwan ang interval ng 2 halalan. And so what we did, insofar as the House is concerned, was to pass the bill na gawin namin 1 year after May. So, May 2023. Unfortunately, when the Senate version came, ang in-insist nila is up only to December. And that is the reason why we have December. And also, based on the issues which we are discussing, I think we have to decide on the following separately. Number 1, will there be a postponement? Secondly, if there will be a postponement, what will be the date? Shall it be the first Monday of December of the current year? Shall it be October next year or May next year? And finally, if there will be a postponement, what would be the term of office of the barangay and SK officials to be elected during their election, whether 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, etc.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Honorable Barsaga. Mr. Chair. Congressman D, please proceed.
Mr. Chair, I support the statements of Congressman Barsaga, and I want to put it on record, Mr. Chair, that I also support the measure of Congressman Dong Gonzales na dapat every 5 years na po here and after yung term po ng ating mga barangay and SK elections. But Mr. Chair, also, the Liga ng mga Barangay National President Eden Pineda just messaged me, Mr. Chair, that they've been asking to be recognized. Nasa Zoom po sila. Baka pwede rin po natin na marinig yung kanila pong sentiments, Mr. Chair. Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Yun lamang po.
Thank you, Honorable D. I think before we proceed with the other members who wants to ask questions or interpolate the sponsors, can we ask that the other resource persons be also recognized to present their position? First, we go to
Liga. Ay, wala siya.
To the Liga ng Barangay sa Pilipinas National President, Attorney Eden Chua Pineda. If you are with us, ma'am, you are recognized.
Thank you po for the opportunity. I am Eden Chua Pineda po. Good morning to all members of House Representative po na nandito sa committee hearing. So, una-una po, barangay government and service provider for the concerns on peace and order, public health, dispute resolution, and disaster response. So, lahat po ng gusto mangyari ng government is always downloaded to barangay. So, ang implementor sa pagpapatupad ng gusto ng government po natin. We played a vital role at the height of pandemic. Mayroon din po kaming mga barangay officials in line during the pandemic namatay din because kami po ang nagpapatupad ng quarantine regulation and we were frontliners pandemic na. So we even perform contact tracing operations. So there are also po kung bakit po kami humihingi ng election. So una-una po, there is continuity in government operations in barangay level, particularly in providing social services and implementing the national. It can be noted po that during the pandemic of almost 2.5 years, even our barangay budget were aligned para po sa pandemic operations. Right. So we were not also able to implement our own projects and program of all the barangay because po we concentrated on the pandemic. So the next po is the proposed measure to give ready access to constitutional memories of grassroots voters which could be used in formulating plans, programs, and other interventions to adapt to the new normal to return to pre-pandemic growth of our country. So it allows for national and government organizers and local government units focus on intervention needed to recover from the pandemic and address the ongoing concerns over oil prices, inflation, and poverty. So sana po mabigyan po ninyo kami ng opportunity din to implement our own plan sa bawat barangay po. So we are asking for this extension para magkakaroon po kami during election. Yung family po, even families, nag-aaway-away because of these elections. So we would like also, as I have mentioned earlier, now to postpone the barangay and SK elections para po matupad din ang mga plan namin.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Attorney
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Gomez, with your kind indulgence, can we ask all the resource persons if they are positions to first voice out their position or any other comments before we ask questions to them?
Just a rejoinder, Mr. Chair, that in the event that we postpone the SK and barangay elections, I think we should put into motion, or we can discuss this in a later time, the holdover capacity of the existing barangay officials. So upon declaration, they should be on a holdover capacity para hindi sila ma-fill hindi sila ma-void as vacant.
Kasama na rin po doon na
Yes.
The measures being deliberated, kasama na rin po yung holdover capacity. But can we ask Yusek Ronald Giancarlo L. Cardema of the National Youth Commission for their position, if any?
Yes, Mr. Chair, in behalf of the National Youth Commission and the majority of the Sangguniang Kabataan leaders in the country, we support the measures here in Congress for the temporary postponement of the barangay and SK elections. It is because we just finished with the national and the local elections, and we can see and we believe that the barangay officials and SK officials, incumbent SK officials, barangay officials can still be tasked to oversee and to lead their communities, because in the past 2 years they are the ones who adopted and experienced being the frontliners against the COVID pandemic. And also seeing here in Congress that the majority, almost a tenth of House members here are pushing for the postponement, it is a clear mandate and voice from the people that the Filipino people wants it postponed. So from the National Youth Commission, of course, we understand that some barangay officials, some SK officials want it this year because some of them wants to go in the elections. Some of them want to run in the elections. But seeing here in Congress, a majority of the representatives of the people here in this committee are voicing out that it is right to postpone it, not only because of the savings, not only because it coincided with the elections this year, but for the fact that we are still encountering COVID, and the frontliners currently, the incumbent barangay and SK officials, they're already experienced in leading their communities right now against COVID, and we can give them some more time to help fight the COVID pandemic, sir. So in behalf of the National Youth Commission, we support the measures here, sir, and we thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Yusek Cardema. Can we ask Attorney Cynthia Falcotelo Fortes of the League of Municipalities of the Philippines, if the Secretary General, if you have a position on the measures being discussed, and please limit your position to at least 3 minutes. Thank you.
Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Respectfully, Your Honors.
Please proceed, Attorney Fortes.
My co-mayors in the League of Municipalities of the Philippines, at least those opposing the National Directorate, 60% of them favors the postponement of the synchronized barangay and elections. One commonality among the litany of underpinnings of their theory is that the extended time for barangay officials, who were the consummate frontliners in the recently concluded national and local elections, would give flesh to healing, touted by PBBM's Unity campaign tagline. Working with the same officials who were on the other side of the fence for a couple of months more, or until 2023, is one sincere gesture in showing the Filipino people, the masses most especially, that concrete degree of alignment between words and actions by national leadership. Let's allow healing at various to happen in the barangay. Healed barangays translates to a healed nation. LMP need not overemphasize that the reverse is true. Broken barangays equates to a broken, fragmented nation. Another commonality is that these incumbent barangay officials hurdled the surprises and difficulties of the pandemic. They now have the wherewithal to finish and get the nation thrive through the pandemic. To replace them, this 2022 is tantamount to changing horses in midstream, which can prove to be counterproductive. But, nota bene, on changing horses in midstream, historically though, with all due respect to your honor, it looks like this is the kind of treatment barangay election has been getting from this August Congress, judging from the sheer number of laws passed since 1988, 11 of them, and the number of bills pending, 35 as of last time. That said, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney Fortes of the League of Policy Consultant, Attorney Carlo Gino of Africa, if you have a position on the measures being deliberated today.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, honorable representatives. The Legal Network for Truthful Elections remains steadfast on its call of pushing for the conduct of the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections in December this year, 2022. Despite numerous bills filed by our legislators in the 19th Congress aiming for its postponement. We believe that the said election has long been overdue, being postponed for 3 times already for the past 6 years. It defeats the purpose of the 3-year term limit, which is supposed to be consistent and periodic, in violation of international law and the right of our people to regular and periodic elections. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, of which the Philippines is a signatory of, provide that the will of the people shall be expressed not just through elections, but through genuine and periodic elections. That elections are held regularly and periodically is an express requirement under paragraph B of Article 25 of the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights. This is necessary to ensure accountability from the officials and in the electoral process. Elections serve as an instrument for review and evaluation, and it is essential that elected officials are subject to periodic review to ensure that they continue to govern with the people's mandate. Regular periodic elections imply that elections should be held on the basis of a set schedule known to the electorate, either on a specified date or within a particular time frame, in order to provide the electorate with the opportunity to change their leaders and to support new policies at regular intervals. As the Constitution states, sovereignty resides within the people. When our electorate voted for the barangay and SK officials in 2018, they opted to share their power of sovereignty for only until the end of their fixed term in 2020. When elections are postponed, the right of the people to accept, reject, change, or keep their leaders are also postponed. The pandemic highlighted the role of the barangay, putting them in the front lines of the pandemic response. The upcoming elections would be a good opportunity for people to reward high-performing barangay officials by re-electing them or by replacing barangay officials who failed to meet the standards set by their constituents. The postponement may also serve detrimental to the youth. The postponement serves to lower the interests of young people in Philippine elections. In the 2018 elections, after elections was postponed twice, there were over 34,000 vacant seats with over 11,566 barangays, with less than the complete number of SK officials. In a survey conducted in 2021, 72% of young people have said that they have no interest in running for public office. Another prime consideration will be the production of jobs for the youth. The election of SK officials can create over 330,000 jobs for the youth, which can help them as they try to help with the finances at home in view of high inflation and the economic issues brought about by the pandemic. However, if Congress indeed decides to postpone the barangay and SK elections, we ask Congress to consider two things. The first is to set a date certain, not just for the next barangay SK elections, but for all future barangay and SK elections. If it seems that 3 years is not a good enough term for barangay and SK officials, it would be best for all stakeholders in the elections to set a clear term so that both potential candidates and voters will have a clear timeline when they choose to run and vote during the elections. Second, we ask Congress to call on the DILG and COMELEC to fill in the more than 34,000 vacant positions in the SK by setting special elections for this purpose. This will not only bolster youth participation in our different barangays, but this will also help in the continuing enforcement of our pandemic safeguards. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Attorney Africa. Can we call from the National Movement for Free Elections, NAMFREL, the Secretary General, Mr. Eric Jude O. Alvia, who is with us through Zoom. Please proceed, Secretary General Alvia.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. We in the National Citizens Movement for Free Elections would support the conduct of the elections as scheduled on December 5, 2022. Primarily because we see that elections have to be conducted periodically and regularly to uphold the right of every citizen to assess and judge the leaders that they elect. This also is a way to seek accountability towards the leaders that they've elected almost 5 years ago. To some, the 3-year term may be too short, but to others, the 3-year term may be too long also for those who have underperformed. So we see this as the elections as the best opportunity for citizens and the will of the citizens to be reflected through an electoral exercise. I would also want to make manifest that we have submitted 2 position papers to the House of Representatives on our position to conduct the elections this December 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alvia of the Secretary General of NAMFREL. Before we proceed, may we acknowledge the presence of the committee member for the minority, Representative Raul Daniel Manuel. We now go to the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, PPCRV, the National Coordinator, Mr. Arwin Serrano. You are recognized for your position paper.
Thank you, Your Honor. In behalf of the many volunteers of PPCRB, we have submitted last Friday or Saturday, I think, our position paper. And I noticed also in many of the newspapers, this was also featured yesterday and today. So I no longer need to read out the position paper of PPCRB. But in addition, if I may, I would like also to reiterate that the earliest indication of the House of Representatives and even the Senate with regards to the finality of the
new date or new schedule of barangay and SK election, this will be better not only for COMELEC but also for us. As you would already know that we are always a very active ally and partner of COMELEC. We have been supporting them not only in voters registration campaign but also in all elections, including plebiscites. So you would also be mindful that we are also affected by this every now changing of the schedules of our regular elections. We highlighted the importance of barangay and even SK if the December 5, 2022 elections would push through. And as I go around the country, I also noticed that many of the SK officials, incumbent, are already wanting to have the new SK election to push through, simply because they're already old enough. They already covered the age bracket required of them to become a candidate again. And also they would like to pass on the baton of leadership to the new leaders in the youth sector. With regards to the barangay elections, many of the incumbent barangay officials are already preparing. In fact, not only they're supposed to be competitors in this December 5, but more so of the re-electionists. So if we're going to push through with this December 5, then we will not have any problem with regards to the incumbent barangay officials because they are really preparing already in the advent that this December 5, 2022 elections would really push through. With regards to the importance of barangay, many have already mentioned about the importance of having this regular exercise of electing barangay officials. The reason, I'm not so old, no, but the reason I know that barangay have been regularly holding every 3 years is because if we have good barangay leaders, 3 years is not enough. But if we have poor or bad, if I may say, barangay leaders, 3 years is really a how could I say it? A sacrifice in behalf of those constituents under that barangay. So we really need to think about the necessity of increasing their term of office from 3 years to 5 years. Maybe, if I may suggest that we change the date, but we remain with the term of office of 3 years. That's only an advice from me. But if the Congress would really think of increasing the term of office from 3 years to 5 years, then that will be your conclave to do that. And then lastly, I would like also to overemphasize the importance of having that barangay and SK election pushed through this December 5, 2022, because we are also preparing to a more important elections in 2025 and 2028. Many of your colleagues here in the House of Representatives have been wanting to prepare early for the 2025. Not only for the procurement of new vote counting machines, not only because of the new term of reference that will be instituted, but more so with regards to the many proposed amendments for the Omnibus Election Code, for the other important items, as we have already observed in 2019 and 2022 elections, that would necessarily need to have focus,
especially from the Commission on Elections. So if we're going to really postpone this December 5, 2022, I would like to add an additional call that we may have to do it immediately, and so that we could focus more on the new date and also for the early preparations for 2025 more important elections. And this is also parang pinsan ng 2028, much more important elections. Maraming salamat po, and rest assured that PPCRB would always be supporting whatever decisions our Congress would need to decide, and also as an able ally of the Commission on Elections.
Thank you very much, Mr. Serrano of the PPCRB.
We have our last,
We have our
Mr. Congressman.
Congressman Salo, who was raising his hand through Zoom, who wants to manifest.
Author.
Hindi man nagsalita ka niya, di ba? Siya. Nakusalita na.
So, kapag-kasalita na yata. Nagsalita na.
Mr. Chair,
You are recognized, Vice Chair Barsaga.
considering that we have already an exhaustive discussion of the issues, hearing the sponsorship speech and justification of the authors, as well as the comment coming from our chairman of the COMELEC, together with the agencies or NGOs involved in elections, I most respectfully move, number one, that the elections scheduled on December 5 of this year be postponed. Well, after we have decided as to whether or not we will postpone it, in the event that we have decided to postpone it, then I will be moving to choose the dates, considering that there are different dates as provided for in their respective bills. There is the first Monday of December next year, there is May next year, and there has been also October next year. So I think the first motion will be, do we decide to postpone the elections? And therefore, in accordance with this manifestation, I most respectfully move that we postpone the elections scheduled this December 2022 to a later date.
To December 2023.
There is a motion to postpone the December 5, 2022 synchronized SK and barangay elections to a later date.
A second, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
There's a second.
before the approval, may I? Well, number one, the Vice Chair, the postponement of the barangay election on December 2022 to December, what date? So, number two, the fixed term, I think because my bill is also include the fixed term of the barangay captains down the line. I think we have to separate these, di ba?
Yes.
Number three, I filed also a amendment for section 38 of Omnibus Election Code that the barangay captain and the barangay kagawad can now campaign for national and local posts. Because I understand, Mr. Chair, that there is a certification or from the Civil Service Commission or CSC that they cannot campaign the barangay captain kagawad down the line. And in my amendment, that the elected official in barangay, that they can now campaign for national and local. So those are three things that I have to discuss, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I make this manifestation? Firstly, we have to decide whether to postpone. Secondly, we have to decide when the postponement will be. Thirdly, we have to decide insofar as the term of office will be concerned. And fourthly, insofar as the issue pertaining to campaign by barangay officials, I think that would be improper. Considering under the Constitution, the bill must cover only one subject matter. As a matter of fact, the title of the bill will be an act postponing the December 2025 elections. And therefore, I suggest...
That's why, Mr. Chairman, I want to separate those two bills of mine, Mr. Chairman.
Separate bill?
Yeah, because I filed it separately, Mr. Chairman.
At any rate, we will. I think your bill was already filed with this committee, and we'll be discussing that on a later.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. Because my proposed bill is for the postponement and for the fixed term. So that's why I'm isolating now the fixed term. We are now on the postponement, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor. But there's now a motion to
second.
Postpone the December 5, 2022 elections to a later date. That would be the motion. Then we will decide after we vote or it's approved. So that's been seconded. Are there any objections?
I object, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
There are objections from the Representative Castro and Representative Congressman Manuel of the Kabataan Party List. Considering that there is an opposition, we divide the House. All those in favor of postponing the December 5, 2022 elections, please raise your hands or vote via Zoom.
Ito mo nang present. Present po na itong physically present.
1, 2, 3. Only members. Members and ex-official.
What about those in the Zoom?
Yes, we will count by the Zoom. Yung Zoom.
10 physically present.
10 physically present. Sino sa Zoom? Dalawa? 12. Okay. Those who are opposed. Okay na? Ay, tatlo.
Member ba natin sa Pumaporo? O yan, may habol. Hindi natin siya member. Baka ex-official, di ba?
Hindi. 12.
Mr. Chair, may I know how many are present members? May I know how many are?
10 physically present.
There are 10 physically present members and 2 in Zoom who voted in favor.
Those who are against.
So those who are against, please raise your hands.
Sa Zoom. Papi-check sa Zoom.
Even in Zoom?
Wala online.
Okay, 0 online.
Mr. Chair, ilan po yung member ng committee? May I know how many members are there in the committee?
We have 29 regular members.
29 regular members, okay.
So the voting is for those in favor, there are 12 in favor for the postponement and 2 against the motion to postpone the December 5, 2022 synchronized barangay and SK elections to a later date is approved.
Mr. Chair, may ma-manifest lang po. And since tapos naman na yung voting natin on this bill, pasensya na lang din, late po ako nakarating even though I'm a member of the committee since galing din po tayo sa iba pang committee hearing. But rest assured that I have studied this bill well. Nandiyan din po yung staff ko to share yung naging deliberations din kanina for me to cast my vote based on what I believe would be a better option. And I reserve my right to raise points during the plenary debates, and we will also send a dissenting opinion for attachment to the committee report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Manuel.
Mr. Chair. Sorry po, I just came in. As a member of the committee, I also signify my vote for the postponement. I just do not know if I am included on the number, sir. Kahayan, sir, for the postponement.
Representative Kahayan.
Thank you, sir.
Or yes. We counted.
You counted?
Opo.
You were counted, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Honorable Barsaga.
considering that the majority of our members have already decided to postpone the elections, I must respectfully move that the next date will be the first Monday of December of the year 2023.
I second,
For a 1 year
I second, Mr.
postponement.
Chair. Second, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion to postpone the election on the synchronized barangay and SK elections on the first Monday of December 2023. Are there any opposition or regarding the date?
Mr. Chair, since we voted no to the postponement, then the right move would be for us to abstain from the discussion on the date.
Thank you. So there's
Mr. Chair, considering that we have already agreed for the postponement, as well as we have already fixed the date of the appointment, may I respectfully move that the term of the officials to be elected in December 2023 be a period of 3 years, subject to the usual condition that 3 years, which would take effect on January 1st of 1994.
Second, Mr. Chair.
First, I will rule on the motion first to postpone the December 5, 2022 elections to the first Monday of 2023. December 2023, considering that that's been seconded, the motion is approved. The motion on the term of office of the...
May I reiterate the motion just for purposes of the record?
Yes.
That the term of office of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials elected or to be elected in December 2023 elections and subsequently thereafter shall commence at noon of January 1 next following their election.
There is a motion that the term of office of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials elected on the first Monday of December 2023 elections and subsequently thereafter shall commence at noon of January 1 next following their elections.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It has been seconded. The motion has been seconded. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may I also
Honorable,
move
Barsaga.
that we include a holdover provision in the new bill. And the holdover provision shall provide until their successors shall have been duly elected and qualified, all the incumbent barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials shall remain in office unless sooner removed or suspended for cause. Provided further that barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials who are ex-officio members of the sangguniang bayan, sangguniang panlunsod, or sangguniang panlalawigan, as the case may be, shall continue to serve as such members in the sangguniang concern until the next barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections.
There's a motion to put in the bill the holdover of the all incumbent barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials that until their successors shall have been duly elected and qualified, they shall remain in office unless sooner removed or suspended for cause. Provided that barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials who are ex-officio members of the Sangguniang Bayan, Sangguniang Panglunsod, or Sangguniang Panlalawigan, as the case may be, shall continue to serve as such members in the Sangguniang concerned until the next barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second.
The motion has been seconded. The motion is approved.
Well, insofar as appropriations are concerned, Mr. Chairman, I think that would be the subject matter to be discussed by the House Committee on Appropriations in consultation with the COMELEC regarding the cost of the elections to be shouldered for next year. And finally, in order to avoid any question later on, I most respectfully move that there must be an express repeal of the present law together with all the pertinent laws.
Second,
So-
Mr. Chair.
There's a motion that of an express repeal of all laws, acts, presidential decrees, executive orders, issuances, or presidential proclamations, rules and regulations or part thereof which are contrary to and inconsistent with the provisions of the present bill are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly.
Yes.
Are there any second?
Second.
It has been seconded. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
Can we recognize first, we acknowledge first the committee vice chairperson, Jonathan Kifty Flores, who is with us through Zoom.
Mr. Chair, may I manifest or may I make a motion that I will be included as one of the co-author of the consolidated bill, sir? Thank you. So move, sir.
Congressman Kai.
May we request, Mr. Chair, that all the
members
who
of the,
actually voted or participated be included as
as
co-authors
co-author
of
of the bill, sir.
So there's a motion that all members who voted for the postponement of the synchronized barangay and SK elections be included as co-authors. Are there any?
Second, sir.
Has been seconded. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Closing remarks. Closing remarks.
So, to close, I express my sincerest gratitude to all our members and resource persons who have attended today's meeting. Do expect the committee to work hard this Congress as it has always done in the previous ones. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Are there other matters to discuss?
Mr. Chair, move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn the committee, the first meeting of the Committee on Suffrage has been seconded. The motion is approved. The meeting is adjourned.